Welcome back. We have Mike returning to the show from the TRD Invasive Plant Management Coordination. It's great to have you back on the show, first of all, Mike.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we had Mike on in July talking about invasive flowers that you might not be aware are actually really terrible for your garden, or they take away the natural habitat for other things to grow in that are more native to our area. Today, we're talking about shrubs and trees that do the same thing.
Okay.
And the first one up today is the Russian olive. And yes, I can speak firsthand in saying that these suckers grow quickly and they sort of take over the space. Russian olives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, myself, I've looked at Russian olive. In our last place, I thought about buying some Russian olive because people buy them because they grow fast and they look okay. And so it looks like a good tree to plant here.
Sure.
But the reason that they do so well here is that they're drought tolerant and flood tolerant. And so they were brought over from Europe to North America and back in the 1800s, and then they expanded up into Canada. And now if you go along the South Thompson, you see Russian olive all the way along the shore. Mm-hmm. And if you look along the side of the highway, you see smaller Russian olives growing just outside the barriers that are getting to be a problem for highways as far as vegetation management, for fire control and visibility. So they're having to cut those down. And it's harder to cut because it's like a shrub, it's woody. Yes, and so it's harder to keep control of. And if you know Russian olive and you've had them in your yards, you cut them, they resprout. And the other problem with them is they do have a little sort of an olive. It's not related to the olive, but they do have a little berry that the birds will come and take, and they'll distribute them around, and so you'll end up with Russian olives growing everywhere.
Okay, so they're quite invasive.
Yeah.
We have pictures of them. It's something that, I had one just like this in my backyard, and I think it doubled in size in 5 years. So it was really a fast growth tree, and you don't want to have things planted around you that are going to take over natural habitat. One final picture, I believe, coming up. There it is. So Russian olive, number one. The second one, and we can go straight into the next picture, is the Japanese knotweed.
Yeah, just until I started this role, I didn't know a lot about Japanese knotweed. There's been a lot of talked about it at the coast. It was brought in as an ornamental from the Orient to Britain years and years ago, and it expanded like crazy. And now they're basically, if you buy property, you have to disclose that you have Japanese knotweed.
Really?
Because you can't get rid of it.
There's this interesting picture. It's almost like they grow in a weird little bamboo-ish type formation, and then they sprout leaves off of that. I don't know.
I did see somebody this year who they said it was sold to them as Canadian bamboo. So it grows like bamboo, jointed like that, except it doesn't have the narrow bamboo leaves. It has a broader heart-shaped leaf.
Okay.
Not too many of them. It doesn't grow too much out on the rangelands or anything here. It's almost always connected with landscaping. People bring them in and plant them on purpose. They don't know what the impact is. So, but they're very difficult to get control of. They're found in most of the municipalities around Kamloops, but if you've got them, do your best to get rid of them. Okay. But the challenge is getting rid of them. If you're cutting the tops, we don't want you just dumping them in the bush because they'll grow right off the tops. Of course. So then put them in a plastic bag, a nice clear plastic bag, take them to your local landfill, tell them they've got invasive plants, and they'll bury them deep.
Awesome.
And so we'll get rid of them that way.
Okay. We're very close to being out of time, but I want to get to the last one. It's the tree of heaven, which I guess is not that heavenly after all.
No, and this again was a fairly new one to me. We don't have very much of it in Kamloops, but it is found west of town a little bit. And the one picture I think I've got in there, it shows it growing right up beside a building, and it'll basically really take over. Tree of heaven was the tree that was referred to in A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. So it was a metaphor for being strong and will grow anywhere. So this one tree growing out of the pavement in Brooklyn was the tree of heaven. Yeah. And we're finding it here. So if you hear of tree of heaven, don't plant it.
Don't plant it. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Mike, we're out of time. I'm sorry this had to be so short, but some great examples of things you need to look out for. If you have any questions, that email address will get you to Mike, and he can certainly answer your questions. We're back after a quick break. Stay with us.